How's it going, everyone? My name is True Wonder Dog, and today we're here to see how terrible is Frost. Now, I want to start this video off by saying Frost is my favorite character in this game. I've been waiting to play her for a very long time, ever since she first got leaked, but even so, I do have to admit that she does have some shortcomings, sad to say, but it's true. So without any further ado, let's talk about how she is lacking and how we could possibly improve her in a future update. And let's look at her jump-ins. So her jump-in 1 is for grounded opponents, and her jumping 2 is for air-to-air. However, if the opponent's already frozen, I do see a lot of players use her jumping 2 to extend combos, though the timing is very specific, but they do it because the damage is a little bit higher. But that downward hitbox is just so bad. It's really tough to actually do. It takes some timing, but if you can do it, it's one of your best ways to start off combos. Problem is, you gotta dial in the string before you actually touch the ground, so it's very tough to do. I get that it's an air-to-air, but why is the air-to-air normal her most damaging one from the sky? That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like her regular jump-in, which is meant for grounded opponents, and for combo extension, should do more damage, but you know, it is what it is. Maybe a tiny update could be to switch that around. I'd be very happy. So next up, let's talk about Forward 2, her Blade Lunge. I love this move so much. It's got fantastic range. Now it is a high attack, so the opponent could just duck from a distance, because they have no reason not to, and then just uppercut you. So you don't want to throw it out all the time. What I like doing is putting up the barrier, and then doing a few projectiles, maybe do the barrier again, and as they walk forward, bam, you catch them. It's not as fast as you might think though. It's 19 frames. So sometimes the opponent will just do a regular normal, because some characters like Scorpion, or even like lower tier characters like Shao Kahn, have advancing moves that are faster than this, and they'll just hit you right out of it, so it's not quite that fast. Though one nice thing about this move that a lot of people don't talk about, it does low crush. I've had Sub-Zero slide right under me when doing this move. Now sadly I don't hit him, but he does pass right under me, so this move can actually avoid a lot of low attacks. Pretty interesting stuff. But next up, let's go ahead and talk about her attack strings. And as you can see, Frost has quite a few attack strings. However, sad to say, you're not going to use most of these. That's the tragic tale of Frost. Half of these attack strings aren't even useful, so let's go ahead and talk about them. So Blood, Sweat, and Circuits, I like this one. It's actually advantageous on block. It is +3. So if the opponent blocks it, you can actually go for some of your faster stuff to keep pressuring them. So that's pretty darn cool. It also knocks them very, very far away, and it's damaging as well. You have the other one, which is Frozen in Time. This one splats the opponent and leaves them closer, so it can be cool to end combos with this sometimes. And it has that overhead, but honestly, you're not going to fall for that if you're fighting Frost and know the matchup, and it's also -2. So you don't see this string nearly as much, and this one also, by the way, leaves them on the ground for a bit longer too. So in the corner, you still see Blood, Sweat, and Circuits a lot more than Frozen in Time. So Frozen in Time, honestly, not that useful, but the first 2 hits of both these strings can be really good for combo extension, especially in the corner. It's a good way to end combos. So the first 2 hits are very, very good, but like sadly Frozen in Time, you're just not going to see very much. Though I don't think it's bad, you're just not going to see it very much. I don't see any reason to buff it, but this first one, Blood, Sweat, and Circuits, just so much better for a lot of reasons. And then we have Blizzard. These first 2 hits can be really good in the neutral, and the third one's actually safe, but the game says it's a mid, but I swear to God I've seen people duck it. Like all the time I've seen people duck it, at least neutral duck, and uppercut you. It misses all the time. I'm not sure if that's due to range and just the orientation of the move, so it flies over the top of people's hurt boxes, or what. But I've seen people duck this all the time despite the game calling it a mid. So that third hit is super risky, even though it is -2, and if they block standing, it does push them pretty far back, but I swear I've seen people duck it all the time. Even at tournament level, I've seen people duck it. And then we have No Humility. You almost never see this final hit. It is a low, and in her second variation, it could actually be a decent mix-up. So that third hit can actually be pretty useful sometimes. You just don't see it very much because that second variation is honestly not the better one, in my opinion. And then we have One True Warrioress. So I love how this looks, but you're almost never going to see this one. Though what is kind of cool is that if I put the opponent in the corner, those first 2 hits are the most damaging way to extend your combo, because you do this, and then that, and boom, you get your damage. So that's pretty darn cool that you can actually do that. It recovers fast enough to keep going. And in fact, just the first 2 hits are actually plus on block. So it's great for extending your pressure and creating that fake opening for the opponent. I do like that. Frost is meant to be a zoner, but she does have several ways to get plus frames. Now, it is a high attack to start off. That's the scary part, and the opponent will duck against Frost most of the time, because this low is just too threatening, so they could down one you or just avoid it and uppercut. That's a bit disheartening, but it's still cool that you have the option for frame data. Pretty darn cool stuff. And then we have Out Cold. This move I have a love-hate relationship with. I like the range on it, but it can be a bit deceptive. You stab right through the opponent sometimes, it feels like, and you don't get the hit. Not to mention from max distance, you can't even combo after it correctly. That makes me a bit sad, but that's not really the fault of this move, it's the fault of the special move. The range just isn't good enough to work when this move is used from far away like it's supposed to be. Part of me kinda wishes it had more range or was a bit faster, because I feel like it's meant to be really good for outzoning, but most attacks can fly past this thing with even greater speed. So for example, Scorpion's back 1 is just as fast and the range is probably a bit better considering his second move goes so far forward. So I feel like even though this move is meant to help Frost dominate from jumping distance, it just can't quite do it. Even characters like Baraka can just fly forward past it with his forward 4, so it's just not quite fast enough or not active soon enough, right? I kinda wish it hit as she summoned it. But sadly, it doesn't make her that good from this distance, though it is really good for whiff punishing, which is awesome because his last hit, which is an overhead, does actually crushing blow if it's on counter hit or as a punish, so it's great for whiff punishing. That's really darn cool. I actually like that. Though I do wish the crushing blow left him a bit closer. You have to dash in and do 1-3, because that's the only thing that actually reaches. Anything else, it's a bit too slow. You want to do back 1-2, but it's too slow most of the time. In the corner, you can get a bit more creative, but since it puts them so far away, I kinda wish we had enough time to jump up and continue. I love how Shao Kahn can do that. I wish more characters had jumping follow-ups after their crushing blows, and I feel like Frost could have something like that, and it'd be really cool, make her more unique as a character. But sadly for now, all she can do is dash up and do like 1-3, and then into her drill, and that's the most you can get after that crushing blow. It's still a very useful crushing blow, you're gonna see it all the time, but I just kinda wish this move was a bit faster, or had a bit more range, something to help her dominate at around jumping distance, and then for the crushing blow, maybe it leaves the opponent a bit closer, or leaves enough time to do a jump in follow-up. That would be sick. And then we have Freezing Point. My god, the first hit of this move is one of the worst normals in the entire game. I'm only getting one hit from this distance, but it actually hits twice. So you're missing out on damage, and I don't see why the opponent would ever get hit by this. It just seems so terrible. I have no idea why they made the hitbox so bad. It's just ridiculously bad. And this move is her most damaging way to start combos. These first 3 hits, if you land them, it's godlike, though the cancel window is very bizarre. You have to do it either very late or super early, so I'll do it really early, watch this. And it still comes out. Or I do it super late, and it comes out. But I can't do it in the middle like you want to naturally do for every character. You can't do that. But once you do learn that very awkward timing that I kind of wish they would change, you actually are rewarded with the most damaging start of your combo. Problem is, you're never going to land it. And this final hit is an overhead, which is cool, because for Frost, for anyone who's not aware, the meta with Frost is the opponent always stands up to block that overhead, so you can do this to keep yourself safe, because this special move, her down forward 2, is actually safe on block. So it keeps you safe most of the time. The opponent stands up to block the overhead, and then you do this. And that's good because if they crouch, they can actually uppercut it, but because these strings end in an overhead, the opponent's never going to duck under it most of the time. They're too afraid of that combo starter, so they will stand up. So that's one nice thing, a little look into the meta of Frost. But then we have Reborn, the best string Frost has, honestly. The first 2 hits are safe, they're only -5, so you can stop it right there if it's blocked. But if you land, you got the down 1, and then it's Combo City. Though, one little complaint, okay, a little mini rant right here. Netherrealm, you keep doing this in all of your games. In Injustice 2, it was Poison Ivy. She had a down input in her string, and then a down-down special move. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten this, even though I swear I only pressed it once. And you know what avoids that problem, Netherrealm? Just don't put the down 1 as an input. Why couldn't it be back 3, 2, 1? Why not? Why is it down 1? Why are you trying to sabotage me by giving me this move as a down, down 1 input? Why has it even gotta be a down, down 1 input? I swear to God, there's no reason to have this contradiction. It's so annoying. It's happened to so many players too. I've seen it happen at pro level at a tournament. I've seen this happen. We don't want this Netherrealm. Stop. If you want to put a down, down special move, fine. but please just double check and make sure none of their attack strings have a down input with the exact same button. It could have even been back 3-2, down 2, and it would have been fine. If you wanted the satisfaction of a downward move that has a downward input, I understand that. I understand how it feels kind of satisfying on the fingers, but why does it share an input with a special move? Okay, mini rant over. Just please NetherRealm, stop doing that in future titles. Stop, please. But yeah, this string, it's your go-to combo starter. I like it quite a lot. If the opponent blocks the first 2 hits, it's safe, or do the little spinny spin that catches some people trying to take their turn back, so that's kinda cool. And last but not least, we have Isolated. The main purpose of this string is to get a bit of extra damage in the corner if you want to keep things simple. It's actually not very useful at all if you want to do higher damaging combos, but if you're just starting off or want to keep things simple, maybe it's a bit laggy, that's some pretty good damage for a very simple combo. It does 98 by itself. That's pretty darn crazy. My only gripe with this string, I wish it worked from mid-screen. I want to do this and that. I've been told by some players it is possible, but it requires like tool-assisted timing, as in a human being can't get it consistently. And I kind of wish it did work, because otherwise, there's no purpose for this string. Because in the corner, there's more damaging options like 2-2 and then 1-3. That's the most damaging one so far that's like feasible and consistent online. So this string is almost useless. Now the second hit, believe it or not, is +3, but the first hit's a high, and the range isn't that great, so the opponent will just duck under and uppercut you, or just whiff punish it entirely because you miss. So this string, while it's very damaging, at high level it has no uses, and also at low level it has no uses. So I think one way to make it a bit better is just allow it to combo from mid-screen into her drill. That would be fantastic. That's one change I would personally love to see. And that's about it for Frost's attack string, so next up let's talk about her special moves. So here we have her first variation, which I consider to be the superior of the two, just in terms of its overall versatility. So first up we have her Glacier Calving. This is immune to 1 projectile, so it absorbs 1 projectile and then it breaks. Sounds good on paper. Here's the problem. A lot of characters like Frost, they fire 2 projectiles, by default even, some characters, right? And then if you enhance it, I fire like 17. It's only 6, but you get the idea. This is almost useless in a lot of matchups. It doesn't really keep your turn for that long. It's not a very useful move most of the time. The only thing I like about this special is that it baits the opponent into walking forward and you fly through it, because they think you're gonna summon it and then fire projectiles, but you go nope and just fly past it and hit them. That's the only reason I actually like this move. It's not really gonna help that much, and then if you enhance it, which you never should, it flies forward past the opponent, which unless you're full screen, they can just fire their projectiles when you do this. If it absorbed more hits, that'd be cool. I think when you enhance it, it should absorb 2 or 3 projectiles. That would be freaking awesome. But to my knowledge, at least when I tested it before the game was patched on day 1, it only absorbed 1 projectile, and then it still broke. The only difference is it moves, so it's a definite waste of a bar. Then we have Core Discharge. So this move is unnecessarily complicated. Its frame data is all over the place. So by default, it's actually plus on block, you know, fair enough. Up close, it's minus, which sucks because as you can see, it misses anyway sometimes. Its hitbox is very finicky. Depending on who you're fighting, it can just miss up close, but it's -9 up close. I kinda wish this move was plus, no matter what. That way if the opponent stands up, it catches them, and you can keep your offense going. That'd be fantastic, or at the very least neutral. That way you can both just go for your fastest move. Not super plus, like +9 or anything. This far version I think is something crazy like +28, or some nonsense like that. It's super plus, but I do think making it a little bit plus could be a really cool change for Frost. At the very least, make every distance consistent. If they're all neutral on block, they're all neutral. If they're all plus, they're all plus. Just please don't make them all minus. That would be a step in the wrong direction for poor Frost. And then we have Blade Spin. So this move, as mentioned earlier, is a very big part of Frost's meta because a lot of her strings end in an overhead. So the opponent stands up to block this overhead, you do this instead. And the overheads are almost always unsafe, whereas this is actually minus, but it is still safe. It's the opponent's turn, but it's still safe. And that's one of my main issues with Frost. I kinda wish this move on block had a bit more pushback. I don't think you even have to change the frame data. I don't think it should be plus. That would make it way too strong. So the enhanced version, I think making that plus would be fine because it costs 1 bar, so you only do it twice and you're already out of meter, right? I think making that plus could be really darn cool, but by default, I say just push the opponent a bit further back on block, because if I have Devora block this, just look what happens. I've hand-delivered myself to her. If I do this and then cancel because I made a bad read, I'm now hand delivered. It's her turn to smack me in the mouth after I do this. I have no way to actually take my turn back after doing this, so I think the option to either enhance it and become plus would be really sick, or maybe even make it to where it pushes the opponent back on block, so it's a bit harder for them to down one me or something like that, so I can at least back up and try to fish for a counter hit. That could be really, really cool for Frost and go a long ways to making her a much more viable character. But as it stands right now, to keep myself safe in some situations, I just offer myself up on a silver platter when I use this move, so I do wish it would either push them back a bit further by default, or the enhanced version becomes plus on block. And then we have Cryo Stance. Nothing wrong with this move, no complaints. It's pretty darn good. You enhance it, you get way too many projectiles. I kind of wish they would stop making moves like this. This kind of feels like Deadshot, only a lot weaker. NetherRealm, please, stop putting like 17 projectiles on screen. There's no reason for that. I kind of think the enhanced version should have just been one more projectile that does a ton of damage. Because when you have this many, it nullifies pretty much anything else in the game that counters projectiles like this. Just becomes irrelevant when you can fire 17 projectiles. Cyberhead. I almost never use this thing. It's supposed to be an anti-air, and when I played the review copy of the game, this move did not freeze the opponent. It just knocked them up into the air. So it wasn't nearly as good. So instead you would do this in the corner to start your combo without spending any meter. That was one cool thing about it. But since this move now does freeze the opponent, which is super sick by the way, I love this special move, there's not much reason for Cyberhead. There's really not. It's kind of an anti-air, but her down 2 is not bad. So you can just uppercut or use that female hitbox to try and anti-air with down 3. She does lay down, so it's just fine. I don't see any reason why you want to use Cyberhead most of the time, but tell me down in the comments if you're a Frost main why you find Cyberhead to be useful, because honestly the damage is pretty darn good. So it's good for corner combos in that regard, but this move still. Cyberhead's just not quite as good, so tell me down in the comments why you like using this move. Next up we have Auger Lunge. This move is your go-to way to end combos a lot of the time. Puts them pretty far back by default. You enhance it, tons of screen carry, almost all the way in the corner. If you do it twice, it's corner to corner. It's fantastic. And if you land the enhanced version 3 times, your next one actually crushing blows no matter what, which is really cool. But once again, just like this crushing blow, it knocks them so darn far away. I wish it didn't do that. I wish they were either a bit closer to make the combo options a bit deadlier with more damage and allow us to jump in and extend our combo that way. That would be so sick to have a jump in combo with Frost after a crushing blow. That'd be so freaking sick. I would love that. Microburst. This move I do take a bit of an issue with. The default version is pretty much useless. And the enhanced version, while it's your go-to combo extender, doesn't reach sometimes. Like right here, just doesn't reach. So start of the round, I can't do that. And that kind of sucks. I understand there are other ways to end the combo, like this. But it just kind of sucks that this move, which is made for whiff punishing, without the crushing blow, it's no longer threatening as a whiff punish because I can't get that extra beefy damage anymore. And that makes me a bit sad. I wish it had a bit more range somehow, though that might be a bit too strong. It's just one of my minor gripes with Frost, is that when I land this move, I can't always get a wombo combo. I just wish it had a bit more range to maximize on like jumping distance punishes, which is where Frost is supposed to live, around this distance, and yet I can't extend my combos a lot of the time if this move lands at its max peak range, so I kinda wish they'd fix that somehow. And that's honestly it for variation 1, so now let's look at our second tournament variation. Now I personally don't prefer this variation, but man, this outfit is sick. Frost has some really cool costumes in this game. So this cryogenic crown has several variations, a close one, right? It has a mid one and a far one. So it's a really good zoning tool. You end your combo, you do this, then you go in. Now it's not a mix-up, it is a mid, so it's mainly just for pressure. The opponent has to stand there or try to jump, and then you can counter their jumping by uppercutting or going for cryogenic head, stuff like that. You want to bait the opponent into doing something risky and then you punish them for doing it, or they stay there and block it, at which point you pressure them with your low mix-ups, maybe your short hops, all that good stuff. And in this variation she also has this move, which is overhead, so it's very tricky if the opponent just wants to block low for whatever reason. You catch them with this, and they might actually block low because this move, right? They're expecting the crown end of this because this will catch them trying to jump. So they may actually get caught by this overhead because they want to crouch duck to whiff this and then uppercut you, and you go, nah, I have this overhead hitting move. And Arctic Barrage. I love the animation on this move. I wish it started up a bit faster just for combos, because I want to do this, and it doesn't work. And I even want to do other stuff, like say the back 1-2, and that doesn't work either. It's just too darn slow, so I kinda wish it was a bit faster. I understand why it might be too strong to make it faster since it is an overhead, and that is a mix-up, especially right here, right? You have this low for 2-2-3, instead you do 2-2 into Arctic Barrage, then you have that overhead. Pretty strong stuff, not to mention the pressure, right? They want to jump, ooh, catch them with this, right? Train them, they stop jumping, and in fact, they want to duck to punish that move, right? And you go, no, overhead. So this move is maybe fine the way it is, just a personal gripe, I wish it was a little bit faster. So it's not a terrible move by any means, and neither is the crown. They're both honestly just fine. The problem is the combos go away in this variation. You no longer have the discharge, so you can't do her fun, beefy combos that do more damage. Instead, it's all about setups, and I understand that change, but I also think it's why almost no one uses this variation outside of the first week the game was out. Especially at tournaments, I saw some people trying to rock this, but since it is a mid, and Frost doesn't have the craziest mix-ups, they would just respect it and block, and they wouldn't block low, because this move is still only neutral. You don't get any frame advantage, so they would just block it, respect the move, and then try to take their turn back some other way. They wouldn't even jump. Maybe the first time they jump to try and trick the opponent and see how they play, but after that they just respect it and they block, and this move just stops being as useful. So I don't think this variation is bad. It's just lacking the combos, and that's why you don't see as many people use it. By the way, Arctic Barrage, if you enhance it, there's a low, but it also crushing blows if you avoid a low attack, like you crush counter it. That could be really cool, but the problem is, how often is that gonna happen? I kinda wish the crushing blow was just landed as a counter hit. I don't see why not. So if you do want to make one small buff, developers, I do think making the crushing blow a bit easier to do would be a nice buff for Frost. And if you do land this crushing blow, you actually can do a jump in follow-up, but then nothing pretty much after that unless you're in the corner. So we're so close. We're so close to getting those jump in follow-ups. I really want to have those for Frost, but as of now it only works in the corner. So we're close, but not quite there yet. Please, developers, give more jump in follow-ups to crushing blows. They're so sick. But honestly, that's about my thoughts for Frost, everyone. I don't think she's a terrible character. I think she's a bit slow here and there, and I think her frame data is a bit wonky, and some of the hitboxes are just downright useless. So while she's not that terrible, there certainly are some ways the developers could improve her to make her a bit more viable, especially in a tournament setting. But please let me know your thoughts on Frost down below in the comments, and while you're down there, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And finally, why not keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdog.